Thank you for listening in today, and thank you, Suzanne, for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us. I'll turn it over to Suzanne now.
Perfect. Thanks, Linda. And I guess that I can advance the slides, it looks like. So I'll just try to do that. And then if it doesn't work, I'll ask.
Perfect.
So I'm here to talk about the City of Reno Sustainability Program, kind of where we stand today, some of our challenges and barriers, and then I'll go over a baseline study that we're working on that we're almost done with, actually, and some of the initial gaps that we're noticing based on that information. It's a big data gathering exercise, but I'll go into more detail about it. So a little about me before I get started, just to sort of ground yourselves in my background. So I did graduate from the University of Nevada, Reno, in two subjects, business management and political science. And then I minored in their entrepreneurship minor, which I'm not sure if they still have, but it was very interesting. It was taught me how to essentially start and run a small business. And then I worked previously with the Governor's Energy Office, and I was the Renewable Energy and Green Finance Program Manager. So I worked closely with our former governor, Brian Sandoval, and our legislature. I've been with the City of Reno now since 2018. I'm currently our Sustainability Program Manager. And in that position, I work very closely with our City Council, our citizens, our city manager, organizations like this. My educational background is, of course, UNR, and then I'm certified in energy innovation and technologies from Stanford. I'm also certified in as a green professional in operations and maintenance through Urban Green Council, and then I'm on the board of directors for Impact NV. So our program goal at the City of Reno is to establish well-focused initiatives that promise to strengthen Reno's reputation as one of the world's leading cities while also improving the day-to-day quality of life for all of our residents. Our priorities, and sorry that the picture's a little blurry, but these are the priorities under our currently adopted sustainability plan, and that plan was adopted in 2019. I'm sure a lot of folks on this call are very familiar with it. Hopefully you've read it line by line, word for word. But I'll go over a couple of our priorities today. And I put off to the side here, because this is a policy and funding group, that a lot of these activities, although they're certainly goals of ours, are certainly necessary to drive down emissions in our community, they're really driven by funding. They're driven by federal funding that's available, any funding that the City Council makes available to projects. It could be a capital improvement budget. It could be something through another program at the city, but that's really what drives the ability to achieve these goals. So some of our recent achievements, the City of Reno is a Soul Smart certified community for Soul Smart Silver. And what that means is that we have addressed barriers to essentially expanding solar in our community. So that's through offering financing options. We've taken a look at our permitting processes and streamlined that. We have an informative webpage. We have a checklist on that webpage. So it just basically means that we've taken steps to achieve a silver designation. And it's a nationally recognized designation. We're also currently part of the National BPS Coalition. BPS stands for Building Performance Standards. We are one of 33 cities and communities that's part of a White House Council on Environmental Quality group, and it's overseen by the Institute for Market Transformation. And it was recently renamed, but offhand, I cannot remember what we named our group. There's a lot of groups out there right now, so I still call it the BPS Coalition, but that group is looking at building performance standards to drive down energy use, cost, create healthy buildings, create more affordable buildings. So we have a lot on our plate over the next couple of years. And then we were also a 2021 Climate Protection Award winner through the United States Conference of Mayors. And that was for our emissions tracking platform that we still use and that we just entered our second year with. The other one that we're working on right now is the Lead for Cities and Communities designation. And we were selected this year to be part of the government leadership program. And what that means is that we get not only technical assistance to get through the process, but all of the costs associated with certification and registration are covered by the USGBC, which is the United States Green Building Council. So that was awesome that we were selected to be part of that, because I don't know that we would get through the Lead for Cities process without it. This is just a couple shots of our the award that we won in 2021, the Climate Protection Award. Over here on the right side is a screenshot of our dashboard. So we actually have a public dashboard, and you can click there from our sustainability page, and it updates monthly, and see where we stand with our energy, with our own energy production, our own energy consumption, and then we update it every once in a while with a note if something changed or we've added a new initiative. We'll update those kind of on the sidebars in the green there. And so that's up and running all the time, and everybody's welcome to visit it at any time. So some of our policies and programs for change or to enact our sustainability plan can be handled through strategic planning, which is a council process. And that's where the city council outlines what their 5-year strategic plan is. And in that current strategic plan, infrastructure, climate change, and environmental sustainability are one of their top goals. It can also be handled through master planning process, which we did put throughout our Reimagine Reno process. There was a lot of sustainability elements added to that master plan based on some of the feedback we received from the public. We can also change policy or set up new policy or programs through utility agreements. These are often done through franchise agreements with our utilities. We're not in a position right now to do that through our waste management agreement, but that's one opportunity that we have. We also have an opportunity through our franchise agreement with NB Energy or other utilities that we enter into agreements with. Through building codes, some of you may be familiar with how building codes work. The city of Reno adopted the 2018 building code. As of right now, we don't intend to adopt the 2021, but we do intend to adopt the 2024. And I'm waiting right now on a breakdown of what might be in that proposed 2024 code. And that does include the IECC, which is the International Energy Conservation Code. We can also achieve change through incentives, of course, state legislation and federal legislation. And our federal platform does contain some goals around micromobility, continuing funding what's called the EECBG, which some of you may have heard of, and that is the Energy Efficiency Community Block Grant. We are lobbying at the federal level for that to be a continuous program. Some of our current community partnerships that I wanted to highlight, because I know that that's some important work of this group, is how to be strategic in those partnerships. So we are part of the Nevada Green Business Program. We don't certify businesses, but we are a promotional partner. So that the Nevada Green Business Program lives on our business licensing webpage. We keep flyers in the lobby. We do a lot of social media. And then any other time that they need any sort of promotion, I talk about them and I share the good work that they're doing. This Wednesday, the 20th, you will see on our council agenda a grant. And this grant is in partnership with Rebuilding Together Northern Nevada. We were one of 4 communities to receive the funding. And that grant is paying for essentially ductwork and the additional cost for electrification in homes that are being rehabilitated, specifically on heat pumps, so heat pump technology. So that the agreement that we entered into with Rebuilding Together Northern Nevada is that we will step in with funding so that they can go over and above the funding that they have right now to clean up the ductwork and install heat pumps in the homes that they're working in. And then we're also working with KTMB on special events waste reduction. And the reason that we're doing that is recently the city made some changes to how special events are handled, and waste removal is entirely handled by promoters of large special events. So we felt it was extremely important for them to have some tools and guides and incentives to do the right thing with those events. And so we're working with KTMB to develop those tools at all levels. So that would come at the promoter level, the vendor level, and even the patron level, and how can we reduce waste at those events. So what is climate action? I like to think of it in a few ways. Are we reducing cause? So are we looking at fossil fuel reduction? Are we reducing harm? Are we looking at resiliency and creating resilient buildings? Or are we restoring the environment? So are we planting trees and things like that? And I think framing it this way helps people understand the activities that we're engaging in and how they're affecting, or how they are affecting our climate action goals. So I'm going to go over just a few of our priorities. The first one is to lead by example. So that is to streamline and make more sustainable our own operations. One of the activities that we have engaged in is encouraging adoption of EVs by installing EV charging infrastructure, high-use city facilities and strategic locations in the right-of-way. And the way that we've done that effectively is partnered with NV Energy on really comprehensive analysis of each site before we install any charging infrastructure. And that way we can look at the meter situation at that site. We can look at how we're using energy over the course of the year. We've actually had sites where we could install EV charging, switch to a different rate, and actually reduce our annual cost. So we've done that where appropriate. It also is strategic if we couple EV charging with sites where we have solar. So we've taken steps like that. Our strategic procurement is really just identifying where we need new vehicles or need to replace vehicles. And then we don't look at an EV as an afterthought. We just evaluate it with the other vehicles available on the market that would serve that department. And what we have found is oftentimes the electric vehicle actually beats out the other vehicles overall. So we have procured, I think, about 15 to 17 now, and those are serving parking enforcement and business licensing, parks, and some other departments. A little drink there. So some of the other activities we've engaged in is citywide in all of our facilities. We've upgraded almost all of our lighting to LED. And this picture that you see off to the left, we actually replaced in our fleet maintenance yard 680 bulbs with 50 high bay LEDs, and actually lit that space far more effectively and efficiently than we had in the past. Right now, we're working on upgrading all of our exterior park lighting and all of our exterior fire station lighting. And then off to the right, we were featured in a publication called the Municipal for our greenhouse gas emissions tracking and our next steps with what we're going to do with that information. Our next priority, clean renewable energy. This goal is to increase distributed renewable energy generation 15% by 2025 and encourage storage. So the effort I talked about previously, Soul Smart, that's one way we can do that. That reduces burdens. It offers financing. We recently entered into a lease with NV Energy where we leased space for a community solar project. We are adding solar to our Moana pool. We are adding solar and storage to our public safety center. That project is already complete. And then our Moana pool, we're working on the funding for that right now. And then also through community education, and then again, our federal platform for continuous EECBG funding. So I want to go over quickly how this community solar project is working for those of you that aren't familiar with it. So we leased land essentially, and NV Energy is going to be building covered parking for our soccer fields on Moana, and they're going to be putting solar on top of the covered parking. So we are essentially just a host site. That electricity goes to the grid, and then surrounding households and businesses will benefit from that at a reduced rate. And those households and businesses have to sign up for that program and qualify for that program. This is just a quick layout of the site. If you're familiar with Moana, that would be across the top there under the words solar site layout. And then Grant Drive is off to the left there. Our fire station is there on the corner. If you're familiar with that lot, it's currently just kind of an old crumbling lot. So we will be upgrading that lot and putting in the solar array there. well, we won't be putting in an NV Energy will. Our last priority I'm going to go over is to strengthen climate resilience. So our goals under our plan are to assess climate-related risks and develop a regional climate resilience plan. So we've been working with Washoe County on what that might look like, and then identifying new grant opportunities to fund that effort. Second, educate, engage, and motivate the community to enhance resilience. Some ways to do that are through resilience hubs and emergency preparedness. Resilience hubs, for those that aren't familiar, are community locations where the community can go in the event of extreme heat or extreme cold or some sort of disaster. They are electrified, so there's usually solar there, storage there, but there are places in the community where we can help those most at risk during events like that. And we also just won another grant to start to expand that effort, and that was through FEMA, and that should be coming out any day. I think that will be going to council. I'm just waiting on one last piece, and then that will go before our council. So climate resilience, why is it important? Well, or what are we working on, I guess I should say. So climate resilience is really adaptation. So it's wildfire mitigation and prevention, it's flood control, reducing flood hazards, it's vegetation management, it's emergency preparedness, and then looking at our critical infrastructure. And that's not just fire stations and police stations, that's ensuring that water is delivered, making capital investments in our critical facilities. It's stormwater and wastewater management, and then water delivery, and making sure we're on top of all of those things, addresses chronic and societal institutional inequities in order to respond to the challenges of a changing climate. So it addresses affordable housing, homelessness, business retention, transportation, things like that. So quickly, I'll go over Lead for Cities, which I've talked about, and that's the effort that we're going through right now. I think we have 2 credits left that we're trying to fulfill, and then we will turn that over for a preliminary review to see where we stand. It's been quite a heavy lift. We've been working on it since August of last year, so almost a year. Some of the initial successes that are coming out of the process is we got quite a high annual average score in transportation and land use. And this is about 6 different things under that category. Some of them we scored well in, some of them we didn't get any points in. And I'll go over that in the next couple slides. Our energy and greenhouse gas emissions, our energy performance, we scored very well on our annual average, which means we have low energy use per capita compared to other cities. And then education level, equitability, prosperity and health and safety performance, we scored a 70 out of 100, and that was under the quality of life category. So some of the gaps that are coming out of this process are we lack green building policies and incentives. Natural systems and ecology, one of the ones that we didn't get any points in is light pollution reduction. There is a state program, they're working on their regulations right now, and that is to offer communities, and a community can be a homeowners association, a city, a rural community, a park. They will offer a designation, a dark sky designation through that process. So we're keeping an eye on that. And then transportation and land use, we lack compact, mixed use and transit oriented development. Also in transportation and land use, we're lacking an analysis of EV supply equipment and lack of EV supply equipment in general. So we don't have enough of those per resident. Some more of the gaps, water efficiency we need a decrease in per capita water consumption overall. I put in the parentheses water waste because TUMWA does work on water waste programs. They don't necessarily have conservation programs for efficiency or reducing use, but they do look at reducing water waste. Also in water efficiency, we're lacking data regarding low impact development. Materials and resource management, that's really waste management. Our average annual score was very low, which means that our waste per capita is too high and our diversion is too low. And I should caveat this with saying that we don't have data just for the city of Reno because of how the transfer station works in Reno. It captures everything that comes through. We had to use more regional data. So that can be applied to us as a region, not just us as a city. And then I can't, my controls here are blocking the rest. Oops. I just lost the slides. Did everybody else lose them? There we go. Nope. They're coming back. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Local government use of products and materials for which the life cycle info is available. We don't capture that presently. So that was a deficiency in waste management also. Some of our challenges, of course, are policy, the economy, politics, funding. This all could make or break some of our current efforts. So I wanted to make sure to point all those out. And I think that is it for me. This is my contact information. Our Twitter is at Reno Resilience. If you don't follow us, we do post a lot of information there. I do try to post a blog once a month on aroundthearch.com. And then to get to all of our web pages, it's just reno.gov/sustainability. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Did any questions come through in the chat at all?
I am not seeing any questions in the chat, Suzanne.
Okay.
That was a wonderful presentation. And if there are no other questions at this time, I think we will wrap it up.
Oh, I have a question. This is Allie here.
Oh, great.
So Suzanne, you mentioned a little bit about not having equipment for EV stations. Was that due to like funding for the equipment, or is it a shortage of equipment due to COVID, or is it a combination of all of that, or places to put them?
I mean, it could be all of the above. Most often you see them on private property. I think where they lack is in public right of way. And sometimes it gets not every private space offers charging for free. So I think for a while there were various barriers on if you hosted a charging station, how that worked with some of the Public Utilities Commission's regulations. That was worked out a few years ago. And so I think it's just, if it's on private property, it's up to that owner to fund it or find funding. If it's in the public right away, that's a much heavier lift and is probably much more of a funding and planning issue.
But you see a need for it?
Yeah, we didn't score any points at all there. How they set those baselines is they look at activity in other cities. And so the only thing we missed is basically compared to other cities, we probably don't have enough, but not only do we probably not have enough, we don't track it either. We don't track where they are in the city, and that could be done through flagging permits that come through. There's various ways to track it, but we don't do that either. So we just didn't get any points there at all, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Suzanne, I suppose I was just thinking, with all these programs, are any of these linked in any way with the county, Washoe County?
So some we're a little separate in that we have different agreements with waste management, for example. So we have to govern how we handle our programs a little differently. But the emissions tracking we did together, we signed on at the same time. I've been working with their green team to align some other efforts. So they're looking at getting a baseline of their greenhouse gas emissions inventory also. So I share a lot with them. We talk a lot about waste reduction, but we don't have anything else right now. We're like doing it together, but we do speak regularly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions?
And everyone's always free to reach out. I think I know pretty much everybody that's on this call. So everybody's free to always reach out to me also.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. That was a wonderful presentation. Very informative, super interesting. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Suzanne, for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.